think when I was teaching before coming to Olin, I was really always wanting to make sure that everything worked, and that I knew what the answer was going to be, and that if I was running a project with students in that setting, it was like I better have done the whole thing start to finish, so I know what the answer is at each point.
And you have a set of data you can hand them if something goes wrong with their experiment, right?
Exactly. And I think that at Olin, I feel like there's just much more sort of opportunity to try things. And both students and faculty are much more open to that kind of experimentation and having things go wrong and saying, hey, that didn't work so well. How could we do that differently? And I think that for me is a really important part of being a faculty member here that's different, because it seems like my experience in talking to folks from some other institutions is that there's a great deal of fear around trying something new because it might go wrong.
Sure, yeah.
And if it goes wrong, like that might affect my pay, right? Because my bonus is potentially, or my increment for this year is tied to what my teaching evaluations are like. Students are going to be mad at me, and so on and so forth. And I think that maybe it's in part because of the culture that we have at Olin, that where we say, look, we try things, and when they don't work, we step back and we say, why didn't they work?
When I was thinking back on my experiences as a student to kind of figure out what to do as a professor, one of the things that I realized is like the projects that I remember the most were actually the ones that failed, right? The ones where I learned the most about teaming were actually incredibly hard and very frustrating and like highly emotional things. And so when I got to teaching and I was having teams that were struggling, I'm like, I think this is okay. Like, and we're just gonna let it go for a little bit and see how it goes. And I guess the skill is like, when do you actually have to jump in, maybe? But like realizing that was like, oh, yes, I know you're having problems. Let's talk about them and how are you going to fix them. But it's not like, okay, let's just.
I want to ask you, Mark, when you were talking there. I mean, what is it that the institution or the faculty, how is it that they make that failure okay? Is it us? Is it just the fact that we have a certain attitude? Is there something that the institution does? I mean, is there a clear statement that says, failing's okay, as long as you don't fail every time, I suppose?
I think a part of it has to do with sort of openness on the part of faculty members, because I think I've certainly seen faculty members at Olin who have something go wrong, but instead of actually being open enough to say, hey, that didn't work, what can we do together to make it better? They're like, okay, that went wrong, I really need to batten down the hatches now and protect myself and really structure the hell out of the rest of this. And I think that that's a growth thing for faculty members to go through, is realizing that actually it's a lot better to approach those situations by being open and saying, hey, that sometimes things don't work, but we can work together to improve it. So.
And we say things, you hear this tossed around all the time at Olin, that if you're trying something new, don't just try it once and then make a judgment. So try it 3 times at least and iterate every time, make some modifications as you go. So
there were some Olin students who said, at Olin we don't fail, we iterate.
Yeah.